Whether you faced a traumatic life event or a near-death experience, overcome great challenges and adversity, we share stories just like these right here on our Hope with Jonathan podcast. Hello, my name is Jonathan Traylor. Back in July of 2019, I crashed right into dialysis. It was one of the most scariest times of my life. Without a lot of knowledge of chronic kidney disease, I really didn't know what I was fighting, and I was really scared, didn't know where to turn to. We share warrior stories similar to these right here on our Hope with Jonathan podcast. So come follow us and listen as we journey into the deep right here on the Hope with Jonathan podcast. Hope with Jonathan podcast is a Hope Media production. Never let hope become a memory. Hope with Jonathan podcast is a Hope Media production. Hey guys, Jonathan here. Just wanted to take a moment to reflect on the memory of Philip Harris Jones Jr. As many of you know, Philip passed away just recently. I'm really not sure on the specific date, but I do know that Philip is no longer with us, at least here on earth. And I must say, I kind of struggled with what to do and what to say and how to even get involved with this type of podcast. I wanted to do a live stream, but I don't think I could make it through it without really showing a lot of emotions. And I may even show emotions on an audio podcast like this, but I must say that this one, and they all sting whenever you hear about a loss of a chronic kidney disease warrior. All of them sting, but this one in particular, it hit me different. And just stay tuned if you want to find out more of why that I am just in such I'm a mess right now. I'm a mess after hearing about the loss of Philip. And stay tuned to this podcast. So yeah, Philip was very spontaneous. I remember like the first time that me and Philip had talked. He had a lot of ideals and a lot of energy, and I think that's what ultimately attracted me to want to work with Phil. I called him Phil. A lot of people call him Philip. He would call me all the time. He'd call me Jonathan or John. And when we would talk, I called him Phil, and he was okay with that. So that's why I call him Phil. But yeah, Phil had a lot of energy. So many great ideals would float through this young man's head, and the thing that I think hit me the most with Phil was his ambition to want to spread awareness for not only chronic kidney disease, but organ donation. He wasn't just specifically talking about kidneys. He was talking about, any type of organ you can donate, heart, lung, pancreas, eye, tissue, skin, whatever you can donate, liver. There's so many, different organs that you can, donate. And, and then we also talked about living organ donation, which is, liver and kidney. And so we would talk about stuff like this. And, of course, that's what would attract me to want to work with Phil, is his ambition, his goals, his ideals, and his energy. Philip was just constantly wanting to do more and do something to try to spread awareness. And, he'd call me all the time. And it seemed like every time I was going to the gym, he would call me. Of course, I'm about ready to walk into the gym, and here goes the, phone ringing, and it's Phil. And, he would just call me in the most spontaneous time. I live in Texas, and he was out in California, LA. So I think it's like a 2-hour time window behind me. So Phil, usually I go to the gym like 10 o'clock, 10:30, it'd be like 8:30 there. So, there's a little bit of a time zone difference. So he would call me at that time thinking that, maybe in his head that, he probably wasn't even talking about the, he probably wasn't even thinking about the time zone. But it didn't matter to me, because I was like, you know what, I'm going to stop and talk to Phil and see what's up with Phil. And so we would get to talking, and, usually it was, always something about, hey, man, we got to do more, let's do another live on YouTube, or how can we put together this conference, or, how did you create this poster, or how did you, what software are you using for podcasting? Are you thinking about doing, what are you doing different? What are you doing new? What's your new ideals? And we would kind of spitball ideals, and, I would kind of share with Phil. And Phil had already expressed to me before, he'd say, Jonathan, you were like the main inspiration on why I started Second Chance Podcast. I seen what you were doing, and I was like, you know what, I can do that too. And I always encouraged Phil as best I could, and I told him, look, man, if you ever need any help, you ever need any, assistance, you need any kind of advice, I'd say, hey, Phil, man, just give me a call anytime. I'm going to help you out. No problem. And a lot of people have come along. A lot of people have come along saying they want to start a podcast, saying they want to get involved with chronic kidney disease awareness, and then I just never hear anything back, and I kind of leave it up to them. I never really push anybody to do advocacy work, because it's got to come from the heart. And, Philip was just a natural. Like, Philip had it in his heart. He was passionate. And I knew right away, he was going to be one to stay on track. And he was calling, he'd call all the time, or he'd message. And we utilized a lot of that, where we would, utilize, messaging, texting. And he had my personal line. Like I said, we would talk a lot about advocacy. And, just for him saying that, I was his main inspiration was like just huge for me, because hearing that, it was like, man, I've actually... I've impacted someone with what I've done with advocacy work and podcasting and things like that. So, I'm not saying Philip modeled everything that he did. I mean, he kind of went on his own and started doing his own thing. And he would reach out from time to time. Once he got going, he'd reach out from time to time. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? I'd say, Phil, man, you're on your own, brother. You got it. You got this. You're on a roll. You're doing your thing, and it's good. It's great. Keep going. And man, it just, like I said, this one hits hard. Just recently I had heard early in the week of another warrior who had just recently passed away. And, it just, man, it hit hard. And I'm going to miss those phone calls. And I'm going to miss those opportunities to talk about ideals and talk about advocacy and talk about things that we could do, conferences. And not all my friends, not all of my friends will call me and talk with me about advocacy. And if you hear a cat in the background, that is my cat. He probably hears the fact that I'm a little bit, I'm upset, and he knows it, and so he's come over to comfort me. But I'm gonna leave it in the audio. Hopefully it doesn't bother anyone. It's okay, bud. It's okay. But I'm gonna miss those moments, with him, and I'm gonna it's gonna take a long while to get over it. And the effects of the kidney community, when we lose someone like Philip, and all losses are important, okay? But when you lose someone that has this much impact on advocacy, who's gonna step up and fill that void? Who's gonna fill his shoes? And there's nobody out there that really can. Nobody out there. There was all but one Philip Harris Jones Jr. of a Second Chance podcast. There was only one of him. This young man has so much ambition, so much potential. I mean, he was on track to be like advocate of the year with different organizations, people seeing what he's doing. I mean, he had touched so many lives and so many people across the nation, across the world. I mean, he had friends everywhere. And in a community like chronic kidney disease or organ donation, organ transplant, this whole community, it's such a loss that words fail me to express the loss of Philip. And I've come up, I have failed in my podcasting where I have not came out with enough content, and I have failed in the fact in the last probably year or so, because I've gotten busy with other projects that I'm involved in. I have failed in my podcasting, and I have failed my community and my followers. I have failed you in not bringing you more content. And if anything, this has motivated me to want to get back into podcasting even more. And it shouldn't have took this, but that's kind of the feeling that I've had. If anything has been left with me and resonate with me, is to continue the work that I have begun. And Philip helped me in more ways than what he'll ever even know, because I didn't get even an opportunity to express that to him. Maybe he knew deep down inside. But those conversations that we had, the invites to be involved with conferences, the invites to podcasting together, they were huge for me. And I can't describe the way that it made me feel to want to be recognized by him, and and then of course his co-host Tafaro Cook as well. Tafaro was he's a great individual, a great example of a warrior. He was a huge influential part of a Second Chance. He's co-host. and him and Phil were good friends. And, you know, I never got to meet Philip in person. And you could ask my wife, Melissa. I was talking about all the time going out to Cali. I said, you know what? We need to go out to California sometime. I'd love to meet Philip. And unfortunately, that's never going to happen for me. It's never going to happen. As far as meeting him face to face in a living form, but I still would love to go out to California, and and pay my respects to Phil. And like I said at the beginning of this one hit me different, and this one stings. It stings hard. And for months now, hadn't heard anything. I had messaged, some people replied. All of that was sincere, man. Because I love Phil. I love Phil like a brother. And I reached out, and I wasn't seeing much on social media, so in my heart, God had already spoke to me that it maybe something wasn't quite right, but I didn't know. And so I thought I was maybe just assuming that maybe Philip was going to pull through this. But, God, at the end of the day, God has the final say. And, he needed him home better than he needed him here on this earth. And we don't have the answers, and we don't have the whys, and we don't have we don't have the answers to the questions that we have, unfortunately. That's something that we will find out later on. But I want everyone to know, by listening to this podcast, if you take the time to listen to this podcast and you're interested in getting involved in advocacy and you're waiting for that perfect moment, I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't care what anybody says. There is no perfect moment. There's no perfect time. You just get in. You just jump in and you start telling your story. And you start talking to people about chronic kidney disease and the effects that it can have on you. And you need to get tested. And, look at all the statistics and try to memorize as many as you can. Talking about the effects of chronic kidney disease. How many people out there need a kidney? How many Americans are living right now with chronic kidney disease? Who can be a living donor? What restrictions can you have if you want to be a donor? Are there restrictions? What are the regulations? And all the different questions. You got to school yourself on all that. But as far as becoming an advocate, there's no one can give you the complete advice and a handbook on how to be one. You just kind of got to find your way. And I don't care what organization is out there. I don't care who they are. Some will try to groom you and try to show you how to be an advocate, but honestly, it is a personal experience. And so you just kind of have to find your way. You just jump in there. There's no right or wrong. Yeah, if you're telling your story and you're sticking to what you've experienced, what you've been through, then that is advocacy. And you'll start reaching people. And like I said, you just got to jump in there. There's no right time. There's no set time. Or you just sit back and say, in a month from now, I'm going to do it. No, you got to jump in there. Just jump in there and start. Or I'm going to reach out. I'm waiting to reach out to this certain organization, or I'm waiting to work with somebody. You just got to jump in there. Get your hands dirty. And, I think Philip would agree with me on that, because, he had no experience with podcasting. He just jumped into it, got his hands dirty. And you know what? He found his way. And I think in honor of Phil, There's people out there that have the potential to want to get involved with podcasting or maybe social media or however, which way you want to do it. Maybe you want to get involved with a certain organization. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying no one can really show you how to be an advocate. You've just got to learn how to do it yourself, okay? And you'll find your way. You'll find, telling your story. You'll find out. You'll figure out how to tell your story. What parts of your story are important, and how long your story should go for. And should it go long and drawn out, or should you give people your revised version? And you'll know how to do all that. You'll figure all that out. But I just want to encourage someone today, in honor of Phil's passing, that if someone wants to get involved with advocacy, to step out and get started. And in honor of Phil, I really hope that someone out there will feel impressed to get involved in a manner such like he did, and want to help carry the torch. And like I said, no one's going to be able to step up and fill Phil's shoes. I mean, he was just a unique individual. Like I said, with so much potential, and I mean, very talented individual, very talented. And I'm really going to miss Phil. Really going to miss Phil and his phone calls. And if this reaches his family, I just want his family to know how much he had such a profound effect on me and his advocacy, and I began to look up to him, and he had no idea. I was just sitting back going, man, Phil's really doing big things, man. He just started a magazine, an e-reader. He was doing, he had a support group he had just started. He was working with some really influential people in the community, Fred Hill, to name, just a few, Eddie Drake, with Why Not. I mean, he's working with him for a long time, but I mean, he was just, very well known. And, I'm going to miss him. And the community's going to miss him. And I just want to tell Phil, publicly on audio, man, I didn't get a chance to tell you, but I love you, brother. And I'm going to miss you. And I got to live my life right down here so that I can see you once again up there in heaven. And I really appreciate everyone's support for Hope with Jonathan as we continue to grow, and all of our followers. I really appreciate you. Just want to let you guys know how much I love and appreciate you for supporting what we do. No one has to click subscribe or like or follow, but you guys choose to, and for whatever reason. And I just want to say God bless you guys, and I love you guys, and rest in peace, Philip Harris Jones Jr. God bless. This is Jonathan. Hey guys, have you been over to hopewithjonathan.com? You can actually listen to the audio podcast, watch live streaming interviews, purchase merch to help support Hope with Jonathan podcast, read blogs, and much, much more. For more information on this, go check out hopewithjonathan.com, where we share stories of hope.